Hello friends, we all are pursuing, learning some of the method for tribal development. With respect to tribal development or any community development, one of the basic requirements to have ethnographic study. Many of you knowing, but maybe there are many who may not be knowing about this term, ethnography. Ethno, the people study, graphic, study, what study? There are some famous ethnographers, those who have not studied anthropology, doesn't matter, you can know within 5 minutes, it's not very complicated. The ethnographer mentions the study of people, their culture in the natural environment. You understand, when I say people, their culture in their natural environment, how they interact with the nature for their survival and growth, and how they co-adopt. When I say co-adopt, what does it mean? Adaptation, keep on changing, adjustment with the nature and society. We keep on adjusting continuously. When you are sitting in the class, when you were outside, you came and you try to find some space, sit comfortable, push someone or call someone. So you adjust. So we keep on adjusting all the time and adopt. Now, if you want to study, for example, any tribe, let me mention, say, from Chhattisgarh, one of the tribe which we are working in Kabir Dham. Which tribe we are working? Baega. So, as per the definition, study of Baega, what? Their culture. Where? Are they in Kolkata? No. In their natural environment. Right? And how they co-adopt, adjust, evolve. So for that, we have to know about Baiga's culture. Look at this word, culture. And unless we know what we mean by culture, people sitting over here, they may have a different view of the culture. My dear friend, may I know your name, please? Yeah, this is your name?
Dr. Subhan Samant.
Okay, can you please tell me what is culture?
With the mic, please.
Culture?
Mic.
1 minute.
Ah.
Yeah, give him mic, yeah. What is culture? Let us see, my dear friends, how when we define a simple word culture and people have different view, let us see that. Yeah, what do you mean by culture?
Culture means daily life activities.
Daily life activity. Anyway, give the mic to somebody else. Yeah, give it to him, your friend. Yeah. What is what is culture?
প্রাত্যহিক জীবনের প্রতিদিনকার জীবনযাপনের পদ্ধতি।
Okay, okay. All right, give the mic to here, this side. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Can you please tell me what is culture?
It includes our knowledge, belief, rituals, customs, traditions.
So, what should I follow? He said something, the other said something, and he said something. Now, if you are an oral student, And if you have to understand culture and study of culture of Baiga, can you imagine if 4-5 people have 4-5 different of understanding culture, can this be considered as a scientific document? No. So we must have a common understanding. Right? If I ask you, give me a glass of water, the moment I say glass of water, a picture comes in your mind. Right? I told you in the communication, when I say a word, picture should come in your mind. When I say a glass of water, do you have this kind of picture in your mind? No. When I say book, do you have this kind of picture in your mind? Yes. So it is so important for development study, my dear friend, to have a very clear communication, what you say, what others friend also understand, and the tribal or non-tribal with whom you are talking, they also understand the same. You agree with me? So, for the development, the communication is so important to understand. Particularly, I am talking one word, culture. My friend, she has very rightly said, let me pick up some of the thing, which is standard definition, and most people follow it, and by the end of this session, I'm sure you all remember, culture, as she mentioned, one of the very famous anthropologist, Tyler, what she said? Knowledge. Look at her word, knowledge. And then belief. So, if I'm going to study Baiga culture, I have to know knowledge and belief of a particular system. For example, if I want to know how do you cultivate or grow vegetable, if I ask, how do you grow vegetable? So the Baiga will be talking, conversing, communicating from her knowledge and belief. And one of the things,
Rituals.
no, that will come later. One of the things, what knowledge and belief is there, the same belief is a part of morale of the society. That means the way Baiga follows cultivation of potato, everyone says, yes, this is the good way. This is the good way. So it is not the Baiga knowledge alone. It is not the belief. What particular knowledge and belief one particular family is following, others also consider it is a moral, adarsha, eta thik kuch. And then with this, the other part comes, is very important. It becomes a law, custom of the Baiga. And my dear friend, two important points at the end of the definition of the title. Can anyone help me? Two words. It is not a guess. Science is not a guess. It happens in your fund, anthropology, sociology, like this, like that. Science has got no. Please. The two words, the competency, which comes as a habit. The competency which comes as a habit. If this is not a habit, it's not a culture. This morning I mentioned that if the book is lying on the floor and if somebody is walking and by chance touches the book with the feet, where will the hand go? It's like this. It is a culture. My belief, my system and habit. If it is not a habit, if it is not a competency, it's not a part of culture. It may be knowledge alone, but not a culture. So my dear friend, as an ethnographer, one has to understand the culture. And while you're studying the culture, if you have to know a particular belief, knowledge, moral, law, and whether it is habit or not. If it is not a habit, it is not a part of the culture. Please remember, it may be knowledge, but not a culture. Why I am saying is to the relevant of the tribal development. What is the relevancy of understanding these words of culture for the tribal development? Let me share one thing. We all know that indigenous tribal knowledge is very important. I also say. We respect. I also say. And we become very romantic in saying that we have to conserve, respect tribal knowledge, traditional knowledge, because these are very, very important. We say yes, right? If the tribal knowledge, traditional knowledge, indigenous knowledge is so important, why the tribal living in the good forest, good air, no pollution in the forest, good water, the soil is not also polluted with your chemical fertilizer, such a good forest, serene beauty, why they are having malnutrition? Why? Why? Then the question comes, we have to think. We have to think. This is the issue, we have to think. What's wrong? It is not for Indian tribal malnutrition. It is not for Indian tribal sickle cell disease. It is not for Indian tribal the low human development index. The human development index of a tribal is lower compared to non-tribal. I'll ask you, in the same village, if tribal, non-tribals are residing, the same river food is there, same forest is there, same shops are there, why tribals are having lower human development index? It is not in India. Globally, is a concern that indigenous population has got lower human development index. So, I was mentioning about ethnography. So, in order to understand what makes tribal lower human development index, what makes malnutrition, what makes or the hemoglobin problem, what can be done? People say government must make hospitals, they must have schools, is it not? You are saying yes. And people, government should make a road for the tribal. You say yes. Hey, the same village where the hospital, road and school is there, why non-tribal has got a better education and human development? Same hospital. Why? Think on that. Who can tell? একই হাসপাতাল, সরকার হাসপাতাল করলে ভালো হয়, জল দিলে ভালো হবে, রাস্তা করে দিলে ভালো হবে, আদিবাসী উন্নয়ন করলে ভালো হবে. Yes. Why in the same village where the hospitals, roads and schools are there, why tribal have got lower education level and human resources? Why? Think on that. Who can tell? Yes, ma'am. Bolo. Please introduce. Please introduce. Wait. Yes, please introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm Tanushree Adhikari from Calcutta University, pursuing a PhD on soil chemistry. So, this is a simple answer, but in another way, you may have the ingredients for cooking, like you have dal, chawal, and etc. etc. You have the utensils and fire, but you don't know how to cook. You don't know how to mix the things to make the dal or chawal. So, how will you make the food? So with the tribals, the same thing happened. You just mentioned that they have fresh air, they have high quality fertile soil, but they don't know how to properly use to get the actual nutrition for that, and that's the reason.
Fine. So she has got one very relevant thing. They do not know how to. She gave example of how to cook. They are also cooking, but maybe something different. So when the question comes how to, anybody else? Yes, please, 1 minute, yeah. Give the mic to him.
Hello, this is Sumit Kumar.
Yeah.
Sir, I think it's because the tribals are having lack of trust towards the government.
Lack of trust.
Yes, sir.
Among?
The tribals for not using the same hospitals and educational institutions.
I could understand.
Government.
With the government?
Yes, sir.
But in the same village, if the same government function is going, it's not that for tribal another government function is going, then yeah.
স্যার এটা হতে পারে যে যেহেতু ট্রাইবালরা তাদের যে কমিউনিকেশন প্রবলেম এটা হতে পারে যে অ্যাজ এ নন ট্রাইবাল পিপল তারা কি করে না বাইরের সাথে যে কমিউনিকেশনটা তাদের বেটার ট্রাইবালদের থেকে। এবার অনেক সময় এটা হয় যে আমি যদি একটা নন ট্রাইবাল পিপল হিসেবে একজন ডাক্তারের কাছে যাই, আমার যে একটা আন্ডারস্ট্যান্ডিং সেই ডাক্তারের সাথে বা আমার যে বোঝানোর প্যাটার্নটা সেটা ম্যাক্সিমাম একটু আমরা যেহেতু আপডেটেড সেই জন্য কমিউনিকেশনটা আমি বেটার করতে পারবে, আমার প্রবলেমটা আমি বেটার বোঝাতে পারি। কিন্তু নন ট্রাইবালদের ক্ষেত্রে কি হয়, বিকজ অফ দেয়ার কালচারাল বাউন্ডারিজ তারা হয়তো তাদের যে প্রবলেমটা সেটা পুরোপুরিভাবে তাদের কাছে কমিউনিকেট করে বলতে পারে না যে এক্স্যাক্টলি প্রবলেমটা কি।
Okay,
তো
fine.
maybe say
Alright, fine. So what we learn, if we keep on discussing, we'll come to know there is something wrong. It is money. Something wrong. And we have to understand what's wrong. And for understanding what's wrong, in the ethnography method, as you mentioned, we have to know what knowledge they have got according to the definition of culture, what belief system they have got, what moral, adarsh, konta kora uchit noy, what's going on, what is the habit of cultivation, hunting, fishing, marriage, what are the competency, yogyata, what competency they have got. Maybe it was relevant, important sometime back, but current competency which is required today as a part of the culture, it may not be compatible. So, what I wanted to share, that in order to study the problem of the tribal development, if we go for ethnographic study, so we have to know all those, what knowledge they have got. So make a list of knowledge for everything, how they hunt, how they cook, how they pour water, what kind of treatment they have got. So all those things which are related to survival, all those knowledge which is relevant for development, all those knowledge which is important for growth, that knowledge whether it is relevant or not today in the contemporary world. And suppose some of the knowledge are relevant, whether it fits with the belief, wonderful. They knowledge ta dorkar, tader bishwasho tai, they believe also, right? For example, if they think that if there is lower hemoglobin, so some iron and some food has to be taken. If it is as a scientific, so their knowledge, belief is also there, so they will accept it. But suppose they say, no, I did not take any iron tablet, even if hemoglobin is low, then we have to think about it. So knowledge, belief and moral, moral of the society. For example, although cases are not much, they are not many, but earlier the tribal pregnant woman, they do not visit antenatal care regularly, and most home delivery, not institutional delivery. So if that is the knowledge, if that is the belief, nana hospitale jabo na. If that is the culture and moral, na gele osubida hobe. So this has to be changed. So many you may not agree, but think on that. If some of the knowledge, some of the belief system, some of the moral, some of the cultural value, some of the habit and competency of the tribal, make a list of that, which are not relevant for today's world. So we have to think about the change. So next we'll discuss how to change or not. But for ethnography study, the knowledge of the tribal as a culture, this is one. While we go for the ethnographic study, we also study in the knowledge, the belief, what are the institutions? Institutions are the regulatory mechanism, do's and don'ts by the community. So what are the institutional factors? হাসপাতালে যাওয়া উচিত কি নয়, কোন সময় খাওয়া উচিত কি নয়, what are the institutional patterns, and then what are the social institutions. Before I close, you all people working, in order to have this ethnographic study, even for livelihood, even for health, 5 institutions are very important. Most sociologists understand that. And my dear friend, the first institution is the family. Family as institution. অর্থাৎ যেই গ্রামে lower birth rate of the child, lower human development index, lower hemoglobin level, যেখানে এই অবস্থা, their family as an institution, অর্থাৎ ফ্যামিলিতে কথাবার্তা নিয়ম কি পালন হচ্ছে, that is the family institution. ফ্যামিলিতে যদি এটা চর্চা না হয়, প্রধান লেভেলে খালি ব্লক লেভেলে চর্চা হয়, there will be no change. So as an ethnographer, we start what is discussion, what are the rule, what is the norm at the family institution. So this is the most important institution, the family. And from the family institution, the second institution comes the education. Ki shikha dewa. This shikha, this skill is from the government level with the primary school, secondary school, college, and the family also is the institution with the shikha jonno, right? So if you know family te ki charcha hocche, school e ki shekhano hocche, low birth, high weight, hemoglobin jonno, and then what are the economic institution, uparjon, livelihood এর জন্য কি ইনস্টিটিউশন আছে? আপনি জ্ঞান দিচ্ছেন যে লো বার্থ ওয়েট, আপনি জ্ঞান দিচ্ছেন যে হিমোগ্লোবিন কম, আপনি জ্ঞান দিচ্ছেন যে ওদের হিউম্যান ইন্ডেক্স, কিন্তু ওদের তো জীবিকারই উপায় নেই। ভালো হাওয়া আছে, খাবে, জঙ্গল খেয়ে তো বাঁচবে না। What are the livelihoods? Don't know. So what are the economic institutions? So the first institution I mentioned, what was that? Family. Wow, how do you remember? And the second institution?
Education.
Wow, education. And the third one? Economic institution. Jivika jonno. And another comes political institution. অর্থাৎ ওই গ্রামে সরকারি নীতি রীতি কি আছে, পলিসি। পলিটিক্যাল ইস্যুস মানে ভোট তো নয়, it's a mechanism, government policy, principle, act, what are there which supports or does not support tribal. That institution has to be studied. And the finally, most important institution, who can help me? The fifth institution? Religious institution. Wonderful, very good. The fifth one is the religious institution. That means people thinking, mindset, spiritual, guide them for do's and don'ts. So whether the religious institution also favors, supports what is required for sustainable livelihood. If religious institution has got something very confusing about the tribal, we cannot. So what I wanted to share with you, my dear friend, for the ethnographic study, we have to understand the landscape as you are seeing here in the natural environment, and then about the culture and the 5 institutions. Once you do that, you can develop a plan. So thank you very much.